Usually, like when you buy something beautiful, you put it on a shelf, right?
Yeah.
On it, it just sits there completely on your terms.
Right, exactly.
But what happens when that object is so alluring and so immovable that you actually end up becoming the accessory to it? Welcome to today's deep dive into a really surreal narrative from the YouTube video Masal, Saraydaki salyangoz.
Yeah, our mission today is to sort of unpack this really bizarre allegorical tale. We are
Mhm.
exploring that super blurry line between, possessing a beautiful object and just being completely imprisoned by it.
It is such a wild story. So it follows this merman who he stumbles upon this giant snail shell.
Right, and it is radiating these colors he has never even seen before in his life.
Exactly. So of course he wants to take it, but there's this massive catch. A shell is incredibly heavy, and well, there is still a living snail tucked away inside of it.
Yeah, the squishy parts and the mucus, which he totally hates. But he absolutely refuses to break the precious shell to evict it.
Right. So since he can't, bring the prize home, he decides to just build his entire house around the shell from scratch.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? It's basically the equivalent of finding a priceless fresco glued to some random alleyway wall and deciding to construct a five-story mansion on that exact spot just to look at it every day.
That is such a good analogy, and we actually see this dynamic in real life all the time, don't we?
No, constantly. People build their whole identities or like their schedules and finances around a luxury car or a job title they can't even afford to maintain.
Right, exactly. And the analogy holds up beautifully because it reveals this immediate shift in power. The merman is forced to alter his entire existence just to accommodate this object.
Proving who is really in charge here.
Exactly. And there's a skeptical friend of the merman who later points out a really profound metaphor. He notes that this totally passive snail manages to change its entire environment and literally everyone around it without moving a single inch.
Yeah, it is like the ultimate passive-aggressive roommate.
It really is.
The object just sits there, and the active subject bends over backwards to serve it. So since the merman can't physically rid himself of the actual snail without destroying the beauty he covets, he tries to psychologically dominate it instead.
Right, by turning the shell into a commodity. He basically turns his house into a literal temple. Visitors actually arrive to worship the shell, and the merman sets up a ticket booth outside.
Wait, an actual ticket booth?
A literal ticket booth.
Yeah.
He even intentionally starves the snail. Like he feeds it just enough so it doesn't die, but keeps it way too weak to ever leave.
Wow, that is pretty dark.
Yeah, and he explicitly tells his skeptical friend, I have all the control in my head.
Okay, but I have to push back on that. He insists he has all the control, but isn't monetizing this with a ticket booth just like cognitive dissonance in overdrive?
Oh, wait,
I mean, he is running a business so he can pretend to be this shrewd entrepreneur, right? Which just provides a very convenient excuse to justify being trapped in his own home serving a giant mollusk.
that is exactly what it is. By monetizing the trap, he reframes his captivity as a calculated business decision. It is just a classic psychological defense mechanism.
Right, because if he's running a lucrative attraction, he doesn't have to face the really embarrassing reality of his situation.
Exactly. He protects his ego by manufacturing this illusion of mastery over something that is actually dictating his life.
But that illusion just completely blinds him to the actual danger, doesn't it?
It does. His skeptical friend sees right through the ticket booth facade. He actually openly questions the merman's mental health.
Yeah, the friend warns that the metaphorical tower he is building is going to eventually collapse.
Right, under the weight of its own absurdity. And the friend refuses to stick around for the fallout. He ominously compares his own departure to rats leaving a sinking ship.
Which is such a haunting image. The merman is so distracted by the shiny colors of the shell and this fake sense of ownership that he doesn't even feel the water rising around him.
It perfectly illustrates how quickly a person's desire for beauty and control turns them into a prisoner of their own possessions.
Absolutely. So take a moment to look around your own life. We all have things we chase or elevate. What is the beautiful snail shell you have unwittingly built your metaphorical house around? And when you stop and stare at your most prized possession, who is really holding whom captive?